So yeah, I would love to say hello to each one of you. Uh, Thank you so much, Nadia, for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me today. Thank you, Amani, Becky. I love you, ladies. I mean, there is more than a professional relationship between us. There is like a real friendship, and it developed over many years. So I'm really happy. It's my first Zoom talk since the whole pandemic thing.
So we're really
I'm happy
privileged.
I'm doing this with you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy I'm talking about my work and about my latest project, which I think it's a very ambitious project. And I'm very excited that we launched this initiative last week.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with all the guests, like all the
Great.
visitors.
Well, we'll have a chance to chat to
What do
everyone.
you call them? By the way? All the friends.
All the friends. Well, we'll have a chat to everyone. So, Abed, we're going to be talking today with you about Dongola Publishing, which is the artist books publishing house that you co-founded and direct currently in Beirut. We're also going to talk about your latest project, Cities Under Quarantine. But before then, we would really love to hear a little bit about you. You're a very accomplished artist and curator. And so I think it would be really nice for a few minutes just for you to give us, tell us a bit about your personal practice so people can get to know you a bit better.
So I would like to call myself an artist. It's a big responsibility though. But I studied art. I studied fine art, painting in specific, and I studied Arabic literature. So my main concern is how to combine visual and written text in one practice. And I think I just found the answer maybe 2 years ago with the publishing house that I co-founded with my friend, my very good friend Sarah Shalabi in Beirut. But before that, I studied Arabic literature because I was so taken by like literature in general. But once I started practicing visual art more, I felt less interested to write. But I started my career actually as an art critic in Kuwait when I left in Beirut in 2006. And from journalism, I worked more in the art, let's say, at the art field as a gallerist at the beginning. And then I established, like, let's say, the repetition of contemporary art platform that became, in a few years, one of the most recognized non-profit organization in the world. But
Actually.
and this is where we met, actually, in
Where we met.
2011. And we had an amazing show together, me and Nadia. It was one of the best, actually, touring exhibition in the Gulf for British artists. So in 2014, after like more than 9 years in curating and organizing public programs, workshops, I decided to leave my job as a director of the institution and focus on my work as a full-time artist. And this is what I did until 2 years ago. I founded the idea of founding and establishing a publishing house for artist book is very exciting and actually needed in our region. I don't think there is any publishing house that is extremely focused on producing books as an art object, as an art installation. And the way we're perceiving these books, I think it makes a bit different than what other publishing houses probably are doing now. So that was the main idea of why Dongola, and of course we so far we launched 5 books. 3 of them are more complicated in terms of how they are layered. Like each book of them took more than a year or 2 years of production, of brainstorming, of execution. Our last book was Ali Sherry's book, The Book of Mud. We launched the book at Jameel Art Center in Dubai 2 months ago. But unfortunately, we couldn't do any other launch, and we're hoping to launch it in London and Paris once we get back to the real life.
I'm just going to interrupt you, Abed, and ask my lovely colleagues to put links to the Dongola Books website and to the books that you have mentioned. I mean, we were very fortunate. Some people in London may have seen 2 of them for sure. We hosted The Distance Is Always Other. We launched, which is your first artist book, am I right?
True. It was a photography book by Noel Nasser and Chris Cowakin. I mean, they can read the whole story of that book. It's a very beautiful book, and it's our first book, and it's one of the first complicated in terms of production, of artistic work. How both photographers did this project. It took them more than 2 years. I think Noel Nasser, one of the artists, is here already. Hello, Noel. I just saw his name.
Hi, Abed. How are you?
I miss you, Noel.
Hey, Noel.
Yeah, I miss you too. We live 5 minutes away from each other. Yeah, I miss you.
Well, yeah, you're probably closer to us in London and everybody in Chicago and whoever has joined from all over on Zoom than 5 minutes down the road in Beirut at the moment. So Abed, I mean, so you've been in Beirut for how long now? About
4 years.
4 years, and you have your artist studio is in Beirut as well as the Dongola.
Yes. My studio is actually around Beirut. It's like 5 minutes driving from Beirut and Hazmiya, and the publishing house is in Beirut. So.
I mean, I mean, we don't have, I mean, you've done so many things. I mean, you're obviously a very accomplished artist, a very accomplished curator, but we do have some images of your work that we can share if it works.
Thank you for the compliment.
What would you like to share, just to show people briefly before we get into talking a bit more about Dongola?
I mean, we can share some photos from my works in 2012 to 2013, Ashes to the Sea. This was actually the first project that I did when I came back to Beirut.
Yeah, okay. See if this, inshallah, this works. Here we go. Okay, can you see Ashes to the Sea?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. Hopefully people can see what I'm doing. And maybe you can just talk a little bit about this.
Yes, so here we have a series of portraits. I did hundreds of portraits when the whole death in the Mediterranean Sea, started taking over the news. So basically my work has to do more with media and social media news. So in 2012, I started with over 100 portraits. You can see, I mean, the ones that you can see now. And I call them states of anxiety. These portraits addresses the plight of thousands of migrants and their tragic conditions of forced diasporic movement. So all these portraits were executed with black ink on tissue paper, and and then I burned each portrait with one cigarette. So basically, to finish each portrait of those, I had to light up one cigarette. By the way, can I smoke? Talking about cigarettes.
Go for it.
The idea was to create a very fragile work that is, in a way, resembles to the situations of these migrant people and the states of waiting and anxiety that they are facing on a daily basis. And then each portrait was kind of trapped between 3 layers of glass sheets. By doing this, I wanted to provoke a mental and moral reaction, and also I wanted to induce an active desire to liberate the portraits from their crystal prison, if I can say. after these portraits, in 2014, I think I did the painting. Can you go down? Not this one. This is part of the project as well.
Yeah.
Another, yeah, maybe more. Sorry, I need to close the window. Yeah, so the painting here that you can see behind me, it's a 5 meter 40 by 2 meters 70. It's my biggest work so far. And it was a statement actually on how I was perceiving the deaths in the Mediterranean Sea and where their lives were cut short when venturing or taking this journey. And also this painting, I think it addresses the cold indifferences of sexuality, how we say it, the word, like how, you know, like all the people who are dying, they become just numbers. So you read in the news, like today, 1,000 people died, 3,000 people died, and again, like how how the whole media thing, propaganda thing, is actually affecting or perceiving our lives. I think for me it was a mass distraction, and from that point of view, I just did this painting, and it took me almost 1 year focusing only on that work.
So Abed, I mean, just conscious of time, and we want to talk about Dongola and your latest project. But so you've been based in Beirut for the last 4 years. You've really done a lot. I mean, I know in your personal work as an artist, as a curator, and then founding Dongola with your colleague Sarah. Could you tell us a little bit about, I mean, why artist books, and what was your interest, and why did you decide to start a new venture when you were doing so many other things as well?
I mean, I've always liked the idea of artist book, and I always felt that there is a necessity to kind of practice artist book myself. I think artist books are unique when positioned in relation to other practices. It exists within and is involved across many different disciplines like drawings, painting, collage, photography, and more than anything, I think there is the ability that an artist book to tell a story and and to create a multidisciplinary work that exists in its own. I think also I was so inspired by the experience that Dia Azzawi did. Dia is a very close friend of mine, and seeing what he did with other Iraqi artists during the war and during the time of conflict was very inspiring as well. He had kind of gathered many artists within this context, and he called them the Fater. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his project or with this initiative that he did.
Maybe Amani or Becky could find a link to some work so people can follow along. And like, I mean, in artist books, I mean, in the Middle East, I mean, obviously you've referenced Dia and his work. I mean, is this a popular medium in the region? Like, what's the position?
It is not a popular medium for sure, but I think many, not many. I can recall now, for example, Dia Azzawi, Tal Adnan, Rafa Al-Nasiri, Kamal Bullata for sure. There is many artists who practiced artist book between 70s, 60s, 80s. But all these artists, I mean, I hate classifications between modern and contemporary art. I think now there's no time for this debate, but less artists, contemporary artist book as a contemporary medium or as a contemporary practice. But of course, we can still find many names. But again, as I said, having also there's another reason why artist books, because me as an artist personally, I was very taken by the work of Yahya al-Wasiti, the Iraqi artist who was born almost 800 years ago. I think if we want to think about artist book in our region and Islamic art or in Arab art, because also I'm not very into Islamic art term, when it comes to, like talk about visual work. But when we think about Al-Wasiti and how he illustrated the maqamat of Al-Hariri and how he wrote Muhammad Al-Hariri's text, I think this was, and this could be definitely considered as an artist book. So I think, all these factors or all these inspirations made me feel like it's about time to, if I can do a publishing house with my partner, Sarah, who was very also ambitious about the idea and who actually, she was the one behind it. She kept pushing on doing the Dongola. So I think those are like valid reasons why Dongola.
Can I remind people to please mute their microphones? We are getting some disturbance. So, well, I mean, I guess this brings us quite nicely to your latest project. I mean, and you're going to be working with over 45 artists, I believe, on your latest project, Cities Under Quarantine, which is a Mailbox project. So could you just introduce that project a little bit and tell us?
Yes, actually, I still have two of the packages. We didn't deliver them yet, yes, but I'm very happy to say or to announce to your platform that we managed to reach more than 50 artists so far. They already got their books. The whole idea came, when I was actually doing myself, or trying for the first time to do my book, my artist book, unique edition. I have it here somewhere. So I got this one from China when I went to Beijing a few months ago. And when the confinement thing happened, I felt that I'm dealing with this book from a very personal experience. I recalled, let's say, more personal issues, and I started this project, let's say a month ago. I can show you some images from the book. It was done using pencils. So like for this one. So can you see it?
Yeah, beautiful.
So I was, it was an amazing experience, and the way I felt that there's this kind of intimacy and working in such with such medium. At that time, I thought, okay, I have so many friends, all the artists that I worked with, all the artists that I met through the years, they are facing same circumstances. They are in their houses, confined. So probably I can share with them the same idea. Maybe they will also reflect the same way, the same intimate and very personal way that I did. And this is how the project started. Why a Mailbox project? Because as Dongola, we always like to collect quotes by other artists who practiced artist book. And while I was checking all the quotes, I found an amazing quote by John Baldassari. And actually this quote opened up the whole thing, he said in his book, it's very difficult to put a painting in a mailbox. And for him, it was a very simple reason why he wanted to practice artist book, because this is something you can carry in hand. and you can interact with it in a more personal and intimate way. So I called a friend of mine who works in DHL, because I thought all the time that, okay, there is no airports, we cannot send anything, there's no cargo, life just is like, it's stopped completely. But when he told me, yes, we're working and we're functioning, we can send cargo to any city in the world, I was, okay, I want to do this project.
Could you show us the book and just explain a little, just
So each book basically comes in this package. Everything was done in-house. So we brought someone who work with us usually, who does all the book, like the hand binding. There is two formats of the books. So here, for example, we have, of course, they don't come like this. This is a dummy. Let's say this is Raed Yassin's book. Raed shows the hand stitch book. We have another one, the Laporello. So here, I'll open it. So the artists usually receive this together.
Oh, you're opening it for us. We're very privileged.
So this is for Serwan Baran, for example. Serwan chose Laporello.
Okay. And so now that the artists will receive
the name of each artist is actually designed and printed on the cover of his book to make it more personal. So like we're sending each artist one book that have his name on the cover based on which format he chose. Of course, I was very keen to spray everything with alcohol, to put everything in the sunlight, and of course to keep it for a few days before we ship them to the art studios. So we were sure there's no viruses in our books. We don't want to kill any artist or to put them in bad circumstances. So it was very spontaneous act. I didn't think about like where this project will go, where it will end, whether it's exhibition or a book. For me, the first or the initial impression that I had, or feeling that I had, that I want to send all these artists that I really like and I really I share with them a real friendship. I want to send them a book as a gift. They're free to work, they're free to do anything with this book. And they can also be part of the bigger project, which is publishing a complete book or catalog that includes all artist books work. Yeah.
Abed, so we're getting some questions which I think that they lead well. So Angelina is asking, who are some of the artists you asked to contribute? I believe we have two of them at least joining us today. We have Huda Tawakkul and
Huda.
And is Hazem here as well? Hazem Har?
Let me see. We have Dia Batal. Dia, hello.
Maybe Huda, do you want to say a little bit about your, sort of with Abed approaching you about this project and receiving the book and what the project means to you?
Well, the idea itself, I thought it was you can hear me well, by the way?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. No, the idea itself, when you're sitting in confinement and everything is a little bit gloomy, it was like fresh air, just to have something new, to reconnect with people, to look in the future and in a nice way, and not just look at the small space where you're stuck in. So this was already a very nice project because of this. And the excitement to be able to work, I've chosen the Liporello, for example, to be able to work on paper, and the ideas just jumping in my head, and the excitement of being able to start something new and different. And also because a lot of projects are, of course, put on ice. So it's nice to have some movement and something fresh.
Yeah. And how long do you have to work on the project? How long has Abed given you? Do you have to send it back?
I don't know. How long do I have?
2 months. I mean, there is no obligations, of course, if they can finish it. But we said, like, I wrote a letter to each artist, and I mentioned that ideally we would like to have images of the book, because each artist will keep the book for himself. Yeah. We're just like sending these books. We would like to have photographs of the actual work, maybe few images only, just for the book. Let's say after 2 months for Reza, because the whole project, again, as I said, it started, I initiated the project, but Reza Abedini, the amazing Iranian graphic designer, actually designed all the covers, and hopefully he will be the designer of the final book. Huda, like all other artists, she's free to finish it in 1 week, or she can take like 2-3 months, whatever she's happy with. It's just amazing that we have amazing artists like Huda or Dia. Someone asked who are the artists. I can mention few names. So, for example, from Paris, we have Taysir Batniji, Hani Zarob, Mohamed Juha, Ziad Dalloul, Layla Mrawed, Fatima Al-Haj. From London, we have Dia Azzawi, Layla Shawa, Dia Batal. Dubai, we have Walid Al-Wawi, we have Muhammad Kazem, Christiana Demarchi, Hazem Harib. From Berlin.
Hazem is now with us as well.
Okay, great. هاي حازم.
مرحبا، سلامات عبد، سلامات للجميع.
اهلا حبيبي، كيفك؟
راحت علي نومة يلا يا مديو.
صح النوم. So we will invite you in like few minutes to talk about to show us maybe one of your artist book as well, and talk about the project. So I was saying, from Berlin, for example, we have Khaled Baraka, Nadia Kabi, Raed Yassin, Hiba Amin, Said Balbaki. New York, we have Kifort Murad, Muhammad Omar Khalil. I mean, there's many names. I can say all of them, but
the website.
Yeah, we have Nida Salah from Amsterdam, Faraji. They're all great artists, amazing friends. We have Ali Sharif from Paris as well.
So yeah, what do you, I mean, I mean, obviously the project is still very much a work in progress, but will
yes.
you have, you'll have information on your website, and we can share any information with people after the evening.
Yes, I didn't share the artist name yet. This is the first time I'm mentioning the names, but hopefully next week we will list all the artists on our website. And actually, we asked each artist to send us kind of documentation of the process of the work. So hopefully, if they feel like sharing these images or videos, we will share them as well on our social media platforms.
Great. We'll make sure everybody follows along. We're getting quite a lot of questions now. So I think we can dive in, or do we want to hear from Hazem a little bit?
Yes, Hazem.
Hi everyone, who's there?
A lot of us.
Yeah, actually I can see just you and Abed.
Okay.
So it's just few people there. Huh?
We're 59 people. So.
Oh, fantastic! Welcome to everyone, and welcome to my studio.
Your camera is on the side.
Hazem, hello بالكاميرا, please.
الكاميرا. Okay. Heck.
Thank you.
So Heather, we've just been hearing about Dongola, and also we've heard about the project. Huda told us a little bit about her, her involvement in the project and her anticipation for the project. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how Abed approached you and what your expectations for the project are at this weird time, quarantine.
Yeah, actually, first of all, I'm really so excited about this project, and actually the making of artwork are actually one of my hope. It's also one of my talent that I had some experience of the making of artwork. I did many during the university in Rome, and I did some like personal book. And even I did my graduation book about Mahmoud Darwish in the Academy of Rome. When I got invited from Abed, I really very, very exciting and so happy, because I think this will be like one of the first experience in the Middle East to do with the art books. Especially in this in this difficult and this crazy time, as everyone is staying home. Actually, the artists are normally staying all the time in their place. Like me, I'm very studio artist, and I think it's like it's come in a great time. So I got accept the invitation from Abed, and I can't wait to receive my my book to start. Actually, I spend I spend most of the time, like 90% in no, let's say 70% in my studio and 30% between the garden and the kitchen. So I'm just waiting for the book.
So you can start working. Well, I'm really sorry, but because we've got 20 minutes left and we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to have to go into the questions. But please feel free, anyone, to ask questions to Huda and Hazem as well as Abed. I'm going to start with Tamara, who's asking: are these printed as limited editions, or are they treated as works of art, or more accessible and mass-produced?
Yes, first, thank you so much, Huda. Thank you, Hazem, for your attention.
And مرحبتين to Huda. I forget to say hello to Huda.
Huda, we love you, Huda.
Yeah. Hi.
Huda, سلامات, ازيك?
سلامات.
So thank you, Tamara. No, they are not limited editions. As I said, each book was designed specially for each artist. They are unique books, and this is how artists should read them, as unique books. I mean, if they decided later on that they want to create out of these books limited edition ones, we would be very happy to support and to help and maybe like brainstorm on how this book can be transformed into a limited edition book.
Yeah, that would be great. Jack is asking, which countries are the artists from in the project, and how did you discover them? What emotions do you expect artists to portray across the project? What was positive and what was negative? Well, here's a few questions, but will you have some of the books back?
Yeah, I can read the question. So basically all the artists are from the Middle Eastern artists. I would say 90% are Arab artists. We have a few artists from Iran, but unfortunately it was impossible to deliver the books to Iran. We're still waiting. But I would say 90% are Arab artists. And how I did discover them, I mean, as I said, they are all a very good friend of mine. I worked with most of them, or I met them and I've known them since years. What was the last question? What was positive and what was negative, especially regarding the future? What do you mean?
What moods do you expect artists to portray in their books? Like, do you think they're going to be positive about the coronavirus or negative? because it's obviously quite uncertain at the moment?
I don't think about the positive and negative, like the duality between positive and negative. I think it's just positive. The communication that I'm having with each artist is just incredible. I'm talking to at least 3-4 artists a day, and we're having an amazing conversation about how they would like do, what they would like to do. And as I said, there is no obligations. It's just, for now, it's just a project that would empower our relationship as a human beings, because, you know, I think many of us are questioning today the validity of our artistic practice, and, you know, many of us probably thinking about different approach towards our own production. So this is just a way to open probably a new window, a new door to a new practice, because I would say maybe half of the artists never get exposed or practiced artist book before. So it's just an invitation to give this practice or this medium more presence in the art scene. And I'm taking this responsibility as a publisher and as a Dongola co-founder.
Thanks.
Becky's asking, have you historically incorporated artist books into your own practice? Many of your works are extremely large scale. Do you find that you seek different scales depending on your state of mind or to achieve different ends?
Yes, most of my work are larger scale paintings, but no, I've never incorporated the artist book in my own practice. And I think it's about time, as I said. I just finished my own artist book. This is something has nothing to do with the Mailbox project, but I think probably I will have more artist book in my own artistic practice with time. Thank you, Becky. We have Angelina also. Angelina, I miss you so much. So Angelina, we worked together at the Mosaic Room, and we I curated Muhammad Omar Khalil, and she was an amazing assistant curator. And
we're actually going to ask
we have
Angelina.
an amazing friendship as well. So Angelina works as a curator for Mosaic Room. And also maybe she can say a few words about the project that we did at the Mosaic Room.
Yeah, the Mosaic Rooms have done, the project that Abed curated, the exhibition is up at the moment, and they have an absolutely fantastic digital program to engage with that. They're doing events and live streams almost daily. So yeah, Angelina, it would be lovely to hear about how you're engaging with the exhibition that Abed curated at the Mosaic Rooms.
Let me unmute myself.
Yeah.
I have to say it was such a difficult decision for us to have to close the doors to this exhibition, because I felt quite emotionally invested in the show, and it was the first UK solo of Mohammed Omar Khalil. So, you know, he's in his 80s, and this show really had so much kind of weighing and importance to us, so it was very hard to have to close the doors to the show. But yeah, we've been working on different ways to bring it to life in a digital kind of sphere and a digital existence. So we are working on a new film with existing footage that we shot with Mohammed while he was in London, so keep an eye out for that film that's due to come out in a couple of weeks. Yeah, we've just kind of been experimenting with different ways that we can engage our digital program, because it's such an integral part of what we do, our public program, and to have to close our doors and not have the ability to do that anymore really just pushed us into experimenting online. And so we did sort of Instagram takeovers and Spotify playlists and living room sessions and sofa cinemas. So yeah, we've just given ourselves kind of the freedom to experiment with what we can, with how we can serve our kind of purpose and continue to support the artists from the region and continue to highlight the work that is happening in an online atmosphere.
And I guess this is what this entire conversation is about. I mean, whether it's through artists themselves or publishers or organizations such as Mosaic Rooms, like we're all responding in sort of in still feeling our way, I imagine, if you're anything like us. But there is, you know, these connections that we've been able to build globally. I mean, usually our audiences as the Mosaic Rooms and our British Centre are very much you know, drawn to our physical events, but it's so nice to be today at least joined by people in from the US and across the Middle East and in other places. But you've got some events coming up this weekend, haven't you?
We have a sofa cinema by another really important and amazing Sudanese artist and filmmaker called Hussein Sharife. And he's an artist but also a filmmaker, and these films were made in the 70s. And I tracked down his daughter, who actually lives in London, and we managed to get hold of these films that are sort of really rare and difficult to see. So please check it out. It's on our Vimeo homepage. There's just a password link and you can access it and watch them over the weekend. And we have Loops in Solitude, which is a living room kind of music session by a Sudanese musician called Sufyan. And then we have a collaboration with Habibi Collective coming as well, of experimental Sudanese cinema. So we'll kind of just pushing it all out there.
And the exhibition that Abed curated is Homeland Under My Nails, and that, I guess there are images and things on your website if people want to see what the exhibition look like.
The artist talk is available on our SoundCloud. There is a film that is in the exhibition that was made by Abed and Dongola that is also on YouTube and Vimeo. We are working on a new film. There is an existing film, and we're kind of sharing also work that didn't make it into the exhibition that we had, and sort of archival works and images and photographs and things that we kind of found in the studio while Abed and I were in New York. So we're just finding ways to get all those things out to you guys so you can get a better sense of Mohammed's work.
Excellent. Well, I think Sigrid has put some links to the project, so do check those out. But also at the end of this, we can do a roundup, because a lot of things were talked about in this session. I think we need to do a roundup of all the links and the websites and the artists' names and links to all of their work, and we'll try and get those out to you at the end. We've still got some more questions, and I think a question to Abed: what are your expectations for the project, for the output for the project? What's the final project going to look like? Would you be consolidating all the work into one book or into an exhibition?
Yes, we're hoping, you know, if all artists felt that their work is good enough to represent them in a book, and if they gave us the authority to publish images of this book, we'll definitely we will publish a complete catalog, I would say, or a limited edition book, where each artist will receive a few copies as a thank you for their contribution. And of course, we will try to, usually don't make big amount of editions, maximum 500 editions. And so the remaining amount of books, we will hopefully try to, I don't want to discuss now, because the aim of the project was not to make a profit, but we're hoping maybe at the end another project can be like a larger exhibition where we can exhibit all the books. This would be the most, for me, satisfying probably ending of the project. Maybe a touring exhibition, because as I said, because of the amount of the artists and the names of artists in this project, I think it would make it an amazing project to show this amount of work presented in an artist book in one big exhibition.
Hopefully we will all meet on that day for that exhibition together.
There is also a few questions here. I think we have like 5 minutes more or 10 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, go for it.
Many artists create sketchbooks. How is this different? Exactly. So usually as an artist, when we buy or when we get a sketchbook, we deal with it as a sketchbook. So we don't think about it as a complete artwork. And in this case, it's the opposite. It's completely different. That's why I tried, maybe it was just a simple idea to have the name of the project and the name of the artist on the cover. So the artist would have in his mind that this is an artist book. It's not a sketchbook. It can be a sketchbook, of course, if they decided to. But there's a big difference between a sketchbook and an artist book, and I don't think we have the time to. It's just they are completely different approach. There is another question. This is from Laura Aziz. Thank you, Laura, for the question. Becky, you wear many different hats: publisher, painter, curator. Are you drawn must one in particular? Yeah, of course. I'm a painter. Hello. I'm Malik.
Hi, Malik. Is Malik an artist as well?
Yes, he is. So yeah, I'm a painter, and this is for me the most. بابا حبيبي عم تخلص so
and you're a father. So
yeah, I would like always to consider. I would like always. Thank you. I didn't make a lot of sessions like don't come here. You know, I told them I'm having a video call, so if you would like,
no, it's fine.
stay and you know. So yeah, I would like always to consider myself as a painter in specific. Actually, I like this term even more than artist because of the amount of challenges that we're facing today as a painters to position painting as a contemporary medium, as a contemporary practice. So I would like always to be considered as a painter. Being curator or a publisher just fulfill my desire to communicate with other artists and to create these connections between other fellows. But I mean, I just consider them as a multidisciplinary practice that will lead at the end towards my own painterly practice. So that's it.
Excellent. Well, just before, I mean, we've just got a few more minutes, and I just have a couple of requests. I mean, so could you just list the cities or the locations where the artists live that are involved in the project?
Sorry, can you say it again?
Can you tell us which cities the artists?
Yes, we have from Berlin, we have Paris, we have New York, we have Hamburg, we have Oran in Algeria, we have Cairo, we have Beirut, we have Jordan, we have. We have Iran, but we cannot deliver. We have Ramallah, but again, we cannot deliver to Ramallah. It's very complicated. We would send them through Jordan. We have Bahrain, we have Saudi, Ahmad Mater and Lul Mahmoud from Saudi. From Bahrain, we have Kamil Zakaria, Ghada Khunji, Faisal Samra, Abdelrahim Sharif. Different cities, many cities.
Yeah, amazing. Sorry, I just mute. Apologies. So somebody, Walid is saying, try Aramex for Ramallah.
Thank you, Walid. I just saw, actually, we asked Aramax, they said as well they cannot deliver to Ramallah from Beirut, but they can from Jordan.
Okay. Well, good luck with that. And how can we follow on the project? Is there a hashtag that we need to follow? Do we can list your Instagram and other social media links at the end?
The Mailbox Project, we didn't start the hashtags yet, but this will be the hashtag. Of course, we will try to, what we're discussing now, if we can create a more of an interactive platform between artists and the audiences. But this is something we still didn't take. I mean, I was so involved and busy with the production of the books itself in such a very difficult circumstances where everything is closed. We can barely finish 3 books a day. I have to supervise, as I said, like the aesthetic conditions, you know, like how to spray each book and to make sure like to wrap it properly before giving it to DHL or Aramax for delivery. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well.
Someone, Sigi is asking if they are painters. No, they are not painters. They are coming from different practices. There's the project, okay.
Angelina's advising that maybe the Qatan Foundation can help deliver within Palestine. So maybe a conversation you guys can have. I think we're running out of time, Abed. I want to say thank you so much to you for like talking to us about your project. We've covered a lot of ground. Like actually we could have done like 10 talks looking at your work as an artist, as a curator, and the work
I'm used to it. Doesn't bother me at all. I do my art first of all for my own satisfaction. So I'm very pleased to talk about other artists, and it makes me feel really good. And I think it's part of my personality. So I'm very happy that we also gave some few minutes to other artists. I wish like the remaining ones are here. But thank you so much really for this lovely hangout. Next time we'll bring gin with tonic instead of coffee. Or maybe white wine for people who like wine. Thank you for all the people who were like here since the beginning. Really, I'm so glad to see all the faces on small icons.
So many friends.
And I hope next time we will be able to meet in reality. We missed actually the reality, the physical interaction with all of you.
Well, hopefully we will all meet together for the exhibition of the project, or coming together to celebrate the project in some way. And Huda and Hazem and Dia, we really are excited to follow.
Dina from Jordan, she also just, I think, I don't know when she joined the Hangout, but hello Dina, it's good to see you here. Dina received her book yesterday.
Oh, exciting.
Good luck.
Well, we'll try and gather everybody's sort of social handles, or how they're sharing the project, if they're sharing the project, of course, and share that with everyone so that we can all follow along, because I think we're really, you know, thank you for letting us join at the very beginning of this project, but we definitely want to check in and see how it turns out. So thank you all for joining us for another Friday Hangout.
We will invite a curator to, so it won't be my own my own responsibility as well. We have Nat here. Nat, we should discuss this project personally, like privately. Sorry, it would be amazing if you would take this responsibility to create this project in the future. Since you are here,
a wonderful project.
Someone better than you to create this project.
Let's definitely talk.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone. look forward to seeing you again next Friday. We will announce our co-host at the beginning of next week, inshallah. Amani and Becky, am I missing anything that I was supposed to do?
I don't think so. No.
No. Okay. Well, it's been a really great session. Abed, you're getting a lot of love in the chat. A lot of we love yous and super proud of you. So let's keep.
I love you too. I think this is what we just like we recognize today, or we discover. I mean, I discovered this long time ago. But I think it's all about this energy, the love, you know, if we can call it love, but it's all about this connection, this bond between all of us. If we want to learn something from what's happening, this is, I think, what we should learn.
Absolutely. I mean, although this time has been extremely difficult and really awful for many, I think we have experienced some silver lining in the way that we've been able to connect and stay together and, you know, expand our reach as well. So thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abed. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Abed. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.